Today I have 25 of my absolute favorite 90s hidden gem, underrated, kind of forgotten about movies. And so you're not going to see things like Braveheart or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or things that just always get talked about from the 90s. And so these movies here, I think, are absolutely fantastic. And now, depending on your collecting journey, whether you're just starting out or you've been doing it for 40, 50 years, you may have heard of some of these films. They might have come up in recommendations over the years, but I just feel that they need a little bit more love. And if you are looking for something new to watch, here's a great place to start. And I broke these up into sections of 5 just to make it easier for me, but I didn't really put these in any kind of order. There's just 25 films here, plus one bonus if you stay to the end. And in that bonus, the reason it's there is because I found conflicting information. Now, I've always felt that it wrote like it was a true story, but there's information online that indicates that it's not. And then in Australia, the release specifically says that it's a true story, but it's the only place that it does that. So with all the contradicting information, I saved it for a bonus because I still think it's a fantastic film. So the first set of 5 here, we have number 1 is Reign of Fire. Now this one here is just a wonderful film, and I'm pretty sure this one came out in the 90s. But you have Matthew Broderick, Christian Bale, and this one here takes place, at the time it was a modern time, but they are digging in the mines, and they open up a hole in the earth, and dragons come out. And so now you have this like dystopian world with dragons and these people trying to survive. And I think it's a classic from the 90s. Now this next one here stars Robin Williams, Cuba Gooding Jr., and Annabelle Sciorra, and it's What Dreams May Come. Now this one here is a little bit more artsy, and when you hear Robin Williams, most people think of him and his comedy, but this is a very serious movie, drama. It's kind of sad at some point, but basically this entire movie is Dante's Inferno. Robin Williams' character, his wife, she ends her life, and he goes into a little bit of sadness, but then he goes through the layers of hell to try to bring her back or try to be with her. And so this is one, I think it's a stunning visually movie, but it's also something that kind of sticks with you a little bit because it is definitely a drama, serious role with serious subject matter, but still a high recommend from the 90s. Now the next one here is a lot more fun, and it is Entrapment, starring Catherine Zeta-Jones and Sean Connery. But this is a fantastic heist movie, and Sean Connery is a master cat burglar thief, and Catherine Zeta-Jones is working for the good guys, and she's trying to catch him, but then maybe she's playing him, and maybe she's a cat burglar herself and who's just using that as a cover, and you're not really sure throughout the film, but it's still really enjoyable. I love these guys together, and this is something I revisit regularly. It takes place on New Year's Eve. That's the main heist for the film that they have to do is New Year's Eve, because from 1999 to 2001, there was that issue where everyone thought that their computers were going to fail and they were going to reset, and that Y2K bug that plays into effect of this movie. They need the Y2K bug to complete their heist. Now the next one here is something I grew up watching, and it was, I don't know when it was put out on Blu-ray, but it was fairly recently put out on Blu-ray from what I remember, and it's from Shout, and I've had it for like a year or two, and it's Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. Fantastic film. So you have Mickey Rourke, Don Johnson. Mickey Rourke plays the Marlboro Man, or plays Harley Davidson, and Don Johnson's character plays the Marlboro Man. And they're just two friends from a long time ago, and they're like the odd couple. They're completely opposite in so many levels. They're very competitive. This is a macho man movie, fighting and drinking, and at the end of the day, they got to get the bad guy. So I absolutely love this one. High recommend. Now here's another fun one, and this one here stars Alicia Silverstone, Benicio del Toro, Excess Baggage. And now this is a movie, we've seen it done before. She's not happy with her dad, so she's vying for attention. She pretends to be kidnapped. She puts herself in her trunk. But Benicio del Toro's character, he's a car thief. He steals her car, she's in the trunk, and then everyone thinks that he kidnapped her, but then she's still trying to vie for her daddy's attention, and he's super rich. But he kind of doesn't care, and she realizes that. And so this one here I think is an absolute fantastic film, but you know, it's a high recommend, a great Saturday afternoon film, and something that I don't think ever really gets talked about, but it's super fun.
Don't think I'm part of your kidnapping prank. Oops.
Now the next set of 5 here is Into Deep. Now this one here stars Omar Epps, LL Cool J, Stanley Tucci, Pam Grier. You know, anything with Pam Grier in it I think is absolutely fantastic. But this is something that, another one that I kind of grew up watching once it came out. I saw it a bunch of times. Omar Epps' character, he plays an undercover cop. He tries to get in to LL Cool J's character, who plays God. That's his character's name, and he's this huge drug kingpin, and they're trying to take him down. But as it's, you know, the title infers, Into Deep. You know, is he really in too deep? Is he going to go over the edge and do the absolute wrong things just to stay alive in this world? And I do think it's a high recommend, and a great performance by Stanley Tucci as well. I think everybody did a great job with this one. But if you're into like those cops and robbers and drug movies, this one here is definitely for you. Now here's one that you don't see too often. Now, over the years, Mark Wahlberg has played a villain, and most of the time he plays a really good guy. But when Mark Wahlberg plays a villain, I think it's absolutely top-notch, and we're talking about Fear. And so this one here, you got Reese Witherspoon, Mark Wahlberg. I don't remember everybody that's in this one, but I think it's a fantastic film. So Mark Wahlberg's character's a little bit older. She's still in high school, and definitely a little bit of a daddy's girl, and she falls in love with Mark Wahlberg's character, who really is from the wrong side of the tracks. But he's also a little bit of he's a psychotic person. Like, he definitely has issues, and the entire time he's trying to manipulate everybody, and it ends with everybody being afraid because he then is going to break in the home, and you see that in the trailer. And so this is something that, as they realize what kind of a person he is, he's just not having it, because he loves Reese Witherspoon's character, and if he can't have her, nobody can.
So let me know!
Now the next one we have here is In Dreams. Now this one here stars Annette Bening. You have Aidan Quinn, Robert Downey Jr. Now this one here, it's a little bit different. And so when I first saw this back in the 90s, I fell in love with it. I thought it was amazing. It was before Robert Downey Jr. was, you know, he's been acting since he was a kid, and he was definitely a household name, but he wasn't Iron Man yet. And so this one here I think is absolutely fantastic. He plays a serial killer in this one, and it's called In Dreams because Annette Bening's character somehow can see what Robert Downey Jr.'s character is doing, has done, and you know, they're trying to find the girls that keep coming up missing. And so this one here I think is absolutely fantastic. Now here's one that I almost never hear anybody talk about, and when this first came out, I probably, not only did I rent it right away, and then I fell in love with it. I watched it over and over and over again until I had to return it. But then I went out to the Best Buy and I purchased this and on DVD back then. And so we're talking about LA Confidential, and you have Kevin Spacey, Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, Kim Basinger, and Danny DeVito, and a ton of other wonderful actors. And I think this is just a fantastic film. It's a period piece, but then it also takes place during like the golden age of Hollywood, and yeah, and it's a noir type crime movie, but high recommend. So you have Russell Crowe's character, who's kind of a dirty cop and will do anything to get the job done. Guy Pearce's character is a straight-laced cop who won't do the wrong thing to get the job done. And then you have Danny DeVito's character, who's this like sleazy tabloid reporter who's paying off cops to like give him information and then write these sleazy news articles. And Kevin Spacey's character, who's also a police officer, who is working with the TV shows, so he's like a consultant on the TV shows, and that's what he really wants to do. He's a little bit more clean cut, more expensive suits, that type of stuff, but a phenomenal movie. High recommend.
Bring it, baby!
Some are chosen for greatness, while others can only watch.
We have The Fan, and now this one here stars Robert De Niro, Wesley Snipes, and if you have not seen this one, De Niro's character, he plays this unhinged, obsessed baseball fan, and his favorite character is Wesley Snipes, who's this baseball player who is doing really great, and then he gets traded, and then he loses his number, and it was his lucky number, and so De Niro tries to fix that. Along the way, he meets up with Wesley Snipes' character, who De Niro just goes over the edge at that point because he doesn't feel that he cares about baseball anymore. It's all about the money and the flash, and then he doesn't appreciate the fans, which just kind of, it pushes him way over the edge. I think De Niro plays an amazing bad guy, great psychotic thriller, and this is something that I'm glad to have it in the collection because I revisit this one every couple of years, and it's something that every single time I watch it, I think it gets better and better.
You know, baseball fans. Why's that? Because those guys are losers.
Now, the next one here, I saw this back in the 90s, and man, I fell in love with it. And so it's kind of been in my collection at some point, whether it was VHS or DVD over the years, and now I have the Blu-ray, and it is Fallen with Denzel Washington and John Goodman. Now, this one here is, it's not really a macabre film. It doesn't fall into that, like, dark, supernatural type stuff, but it does have to do with a demon. And so you have this demon who can touch people and then go into their body and then basically become them and make them do whatever he wants. And so throughout that, he murders people, and so then he just switches bodies, goes to the next body, and the entire time he's tormenting Denzel Washington's character, who is a police officer. And then I think the narration in here done by Denzel Washington is absolutely fantastic. This is a high recommend, and even though it does have to do with that demon aspect, it doesn't have that real supernatural feel or any of those like macabre type movies. But this one here, high recommend.
Is on my side.
Now, the next few I have are some top-notch comedies, and the first one is something that I know it has been talked about, and so it does get mentioned, but it's one of the ones that I've had in my collection. I found it on my own back in the 90s, and I rented it. I remember watching it over and over again, and then I kind of not really forgot about it, but I didn't have it in the collection until I picked up this Blu-ray, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. I don't know when this came out, but I've had it for quite a while in my collection. And as I revisit it, this is another one I think that gets better with age. And we're talking about Mike Judge's Office Space. Now, this one here has a fantastic cast, an early role with Jennifer Aniston. If you haven't seen it, the main character, he gets hypnotized. He doesn't think it works, but then he just stops caring at work. He stops putting in the effort. He doesn't go. He's supposed to go on a Saturday. He refuses to go, and they don't fire him. They actually promote him, and the less he cares, the more they give him. And I think this is just an absolute fantastic film. And there's a bit of a heist aspect to it because they're gonna steal some money, and they think they're taking like fractions of a penny. And they've created this kind of program to do that. And so this is one that if you've ever hated your job or you hate your job now, I recommend.
Next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day.
Okay, but I could set the building on fire.
Now, this is one that I actually didn't grow up seeing. It was a recommendation a little while ago, and so I picked this up this year, and it's Dana Carvey and Opportunity Knocks. Now, Dana Carvey's character, he's kind of like a con man. He's always doing stuff to just kind of get ahead in life and never on the up and up. And so he's being basically afraid for his life, so he's hiding out, and he's hiding out in this empty house, but then the rest of the family shows up, and they think that he's the house sitter. And so then he just, like being the con man he is, he kind of plays it along, and then that entire family falls in love with him to the point where he's going to marry the daughter of the family, the sister of the person that he's supposed to be watching the house. But yeah, this is just one that, classic Dana Carvey, and I think it's an amazing fun comedy.
No, nobody here. They let me stay because I am leper.
I found about 7 years ago when I started re-buying VHS tapes, and I was going to the thrift store and I was picking them up for 50 cents, and I found this on VHS. It was 50 cents, and it was like it's way cheaper than a rental. So we did the blind buy, picked it up, absolutely loved the film, and then I found out that it had the Blu-ray, and I picked that up immediately. And so we're talking about Out on a Limb with Matthew Broderick, but you have an amazing cast here, and it's just an overall fun film. So Matthew Broderick's character is this hot shot who's brokering this deal, and he's got so much time to get to do the deal, but this girl along the way kind of steals his car, kind of ruins his life, and everything along the way just goes out of control because he was going back home. And then his stepfather's brother comes back into town, the twin brother who just got out of jail, and you know, his brother is the mayor, and so then he definitely takes his brother's place. And it's one of these like screwball comedies, but not super screwball. But if anything was going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. And this is something that pretty much like everybody's life gets turned upside down. I think this is a fantastic, underrated comedy.
Stop looking at me like that. You're making me feel funny.
All right, the next set of 5 movies here I have is, I think they're, you know, stuff that I think they have been talked about throughout the community over the years, but it's something that they come up when they come up in like in conversation, as opposed to, you know, these are some people's absolute favorite movies, high recommends, and so that's why I wanted to bring these ones up today. And so the very first one here is Boondock Saints. Now this one here stars Sean Patrick Flanery, Norman Reedus, Willem Dafoe. I think this is an amazing film, and Sean Patrick Flanery and Norman Reedus, they're Irish brothers that are, you know, they accidentally, because they're going to get murdered, and they overcome the killers, and so they start taking out the Russian mob, and they're bumbling it along the way. Willem Dafoe's character is an FBI agent who's trying to solve the crime, but he also plays an over-the-top character. And I think this was a bit of a cult classic when it first came out, and then I think at some point everybody kind of saw it because of word of mouth, because then they made a sequel to this film. I don't think the sequel is as good, but this one here I think is absolutely top-notch.
You think it's unrelated. They're all bad guys. And they're all dead bad guys.
The next one is a movie based on a character that's been around since like the 1920s or 1930s. This started out as a Pulp Fiction story, and then turned into serials, and then eventually turned into comic books, and then this movie. And we're talking about The Phantom, starring Catherine Zeta-Jones, Kirsty Swanson, and Billy Zane as the Phantom. And now this one here, I don't think it's over the top, but it's classic 90s, and it's a superhero movie, but he doesn't have superpowers. He's just a regular man, but it's the mystery behind him, and the fact that people think that he lives forever because they pass the Phantom mantle from father to son. And if one Phantom dies, another one shows up, and they just assume the role. And then all the bad guys, you know, they tell the story, and so it just breathes fear into it. And the Phantom inspired other characters like Batman. There's a long legacy of this character, but I think this movie is absolutely fantastic. And throughout the movie, they're trying to find these skulls that kind of control and give you power, and so the bad guy's trying to do that. The Phantom's trying to stop it. I think it's just fantastic.
I used to be a homicide detective.
So the next one we have here is Striking Distance. And now this is a film that I absolutely love it, but it's something that, as I've watched it over the years, it's another one I think that it just gets better every single watch. But this is a classic Bruce Willis film. Sarah Jessica Parker also stars in this one. You have another amazing supporting cast. And in this movie, if you haven't seen it, there's a serial killer, and Bruce Willis' character kind of doesn't go off his rocker, but he was a police officer, but then he just kind of spirals out of control. He's an alcoholic. He just doesn't care. He's now working on the river, and he partners up with Sarah Jessica Parker's character, who's also trying to investigate him, because everyone thinks he's crazy because he thinks that the serial killer's back. He's kind of taunting him a little bit, and everyone thinks that they got their man a long time ago and he was arrested. So this is something that, you know, I do like. I really do like. I think as far as Bruce Willis films go, like everyone talks about Die Hard, fantastic set of movies, at least the first 3. And this right here, I think just flies under the radar for most people.
What did you get me into?
Now the next one here is The Replacement Killers with Chow Yun-fat and Mira Sorvino. And this one, Chow Yun-fat's character is hired by a crime boss to avenge his son's death, and then he goes back on that. He doesn't complete it, so then he has to try to get papers and get out of the country, but they follow him along the way. So he meets up with Mira Sorvino's character, who's going to give him those papers, but while he's there, all the bad guys followed him, and that's where they get stuck together. And man, do I really enjoy this movie. And so they're on the run for their lives, and high action. And I'm not a huge action junkie, but this is something I love to revisit. The next one here is Toy Soldiers. Now this one here stars Will Wheaton, Keith Coogan, and Sean Astin. And there's just a group of troublemaker kids that are going to this private school because everyone that goes to that school, their parents are super wealthy. There's a terrorist group that gets out and they take over the school and they want their demands met. And it's these kids, these troublemaker kids that have to save the day and do the right thing. And it's just a highly enjoyable movie and something that I like to revisit once a year, but I've only been watching it for the past couple of years. My wife grew up watching it, and just randomly one day she said she wanted to, and I had never heard of the film. And so this is one of the few films that my wife recommended, and it's in the rotation now.
What kind of a host invites you to his house for the weekend and dies on you?
Now here's one I saw as a kid, and I probably saw it way too young. It has a little bit of adult themes and subject matter, but overall it's still fun. I've allowed all my kids to watch it because that's the general rule, is if I saw it at a certain age, then it's more than likely fine. And we're talking about Weekend at Bernie's. Now this one here I think is a fantastic comedy. It's something that, one, I highly recommend, but it's something I go to every single summer. It's definitely a summertime staple for me, but if you haven't seen this one, you have the two main characters. They're working for this firm and they find a huge error. And so they report that to their boss, and turns out that the boss was embezzling, and so then he plans to have these guys killed and then frame them for the embezzling, but then he gets killed, and so then you have Weekend at Bernie's because they go visit him at his house and he's already dead, and so they don't want to be blamed for it. So the entire time they act as if he's real, and somehow or other Bernie is always going somewhere. He's never where they left him, and nobody realizes he's dead. And so this is just, I think, an absolute fantastic movie. And when it came out, I remember like they promoted the heck out of this film, and to the point where the guy that plays Bernie, he definitely did this Bernie dead walk where he acted dead but just kind of walked around. It's something that it always stuck in my brain, but this is something I recommend. Now the next one here is a fantastic film that, it's pure 90s, and there's no nostalgia for me as I revisit this film. I think it really holds up for what it was. Like the complete action in this I think is top notch, but I think the cast, like everything, this was a perfect storm kind of movie, or lightning in a bottle kind of movie, I think. And they call it a slam bang thriller, and this is a Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer production, but this is something that as over the years Michael Bay has been made fun of. I think this is probably Michael Bay's best film ever, and we're talking about The Rock, starring Sean Connery, Nicolas Cage, and Ed Harris. And so you have a group of mercenaries that are upset with our government, and they steal some really bad stuff. They take over Alcatraz, and they're threatening to launch these missiles over California if their demands aren't met. And so the Nicolas Cage character, he's this like bomb squad, FBI agent expert, kind of a geek in the lab, never been out in the field. Sean Connery's character through this entire film is kind of alluded to being 007. Have that aspect, and then he's been just basically locked away for the past few decades, and so now he's an old man, but they need him to get out so they can break into Alcatraz, because he's the only man that ever successfully broke out of Alcatraz and lived, and that's how the story goes. But I think this is an absolute fantastic watch, and great dialogue throughout the entire film.
There's a party tonight at Peter's house. Can I go?
You're not going nowhere.
The next one here is something that's been stuck on DVD for the longest time, but Criterion finally answered the call of putting this on a better format, and so that's not out yet, but there is a Criterion version of this coming out, and so you could easily pick that one up. But you could also pick up this DVD for $1 or $2, because I've had it in my collection for a little while, and I'm pretty sure I found it at the thrift store for $1 or $2. And I'm talking about House Party, starring Kid and Play, Martin Lawrence, Robin Harris. There's just an absolute amazing cast here. But this is a movie that I grew up watching. It was on TV all the time back in the 90s, and it's definitely summertime. I couldn't turn on the TV without finding this movie. But it's something that If you've never seen it, kid played by Christopher Reed, he gets grounded because he gets in trouble at school, and it's a school night. He wants to go to this party, but his dad, puts the kibosh to all that. He sneaks out and goes to the party anyway. And you have all these kids that are in high school throwing a party, and none of them are supposed to be out. I can totally relate to this film. It's just something that, growing up in the 90s, it seemed like it was a rite of passage, but definitely a high recommend. And it still holds up. I watch this regularly, and I enjoy every bit of it. There's a little bit of nostalgia for me, but I still think it's a solid laugh.
Ones have funny little noises on them. You're setting me up, Nick.
And now we have Tequila Sunrise. Now, I think this one is an absolute classic crime movie, but you have Mel Gibson, Michelle Pfeiffer, Kurt Russell. And Kurt Russell and Mel Gibson, they grew up together, and so they're longtime friends, but Kurt Russell's a cop and Mel Gibson is a drug dealer. And throughout this entire film, he maintains that he's not a drug dealer. He's just an entrepreneur doing his thing and just living his life. And then he's basically retired at this point anyway. But then as he kind of gets sucked back in, Michelle Pfeiffer is this restaurant owner, gets involved with both of these men. And man, high recommend, really enjoyable, and a perfect 90s film. And as promised, we have the bonus. Now this one here stars Sylvester Stallone, Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta, and Robert De Niro. And other than your big spectacle type movies like Rocky or even Tango and Cash, this is one that comes up of people saying that it's Stallone's best. And I think he did a great job in this film. But initially, Ray Liotta and Stallone, they wanted each other's character, and so they were going out for a different role. But then they got stuck here, and I think everything just worked out for the better. But if you have not seen this one, something happens, and he loses his hearing. So he loses part of his hearing. He's a cop, but then he gets stuck out in this small town suburbs outside of New York City. And it's a town of all the cops that work in New York City, but they're all corrupt. And Stallone is the only one that's on the up and up, doing the right thing. And so he's a cop protecting cops, or patrolling, or policing cops. And so that's the neighborhood he kind of works, but they're all kind of dirty cops. And so something that really, really enjoy it. High recommend. I don't think it's a true story. It says it is in Australia, but it's still worth a watch. And that was it. There was 25 complete 90s movies that I think are underrated or fly under most people's radar, and a great place to start if you're looking to watch something new. Let me know in the comments down below if you've seen any of these films, or if there's a 90s film that you would recommend. Now clearly there's tons of films throughout the 90s, so there's probably a few that I missed. You're going to want to check out this video right here for more movie recommendations. And with that, remember to watch a movie today, and I'll catch you guys next time.